from Smart Cluster Office. As I said, my name is José Batua. I am the director of the Smart Eureka Cluster Office. And I would like just to welcome you all to this webinar about the second call for projects. Okay, it's 10 o'clock. I see that we have 19 persons engaged in this webinar. So, okay, I will introduce briefly which is the main the webinar about. Okay, this I will go through these 6 points. First, I will introduce briefly which is the Eureka Transnational Initiative, in order to, if there is anyone that doesn't know clearly what Eureka is about. Then I will introduce the smart cluster, this structuring, and also how you can become a member of the association. And I will focus mainly in the third and fourth points, the smart second call for project that, as you know, we have opened in September this year. And I will explain in detail how is the technology scope of our cluster, as well as the 2 phases application and the project outline phase that we are now. This is the core of this webinar. Okay. I hope you are. Wait a minute. I will try. If there is some problems. Wait a minute. Okay, can you hear me? Okay. Maybe we are having some problems with the audio. Let me check if everything is running properly. Okay, good. So I will start again. So welcome everybody to this webinar. My name is José Batua. I am the director of the Smart Cluster Office. And I will introduce briefly okay, what's the webinar about. First, I will introduce the Eureka Transnational Initiative and the Smart Cluster, not in detail, but just to have some hints about what's the Eureka initiative about and our Smart Cluster on advanced manufacturing. I will focus in detail in the third and the fourth points, the second call for projects, and our technology scope, as well as the project outline phase and the evaluation and monitoring of the project that it's going to be performed by the cluster office, and some hints for preparing a good proposal as far as we understood that should be followed by the applicants in order to just to construct a good consortium and a good proposal. Then after I will introduce the project looking for partners. That is in an area in our website where you can see what partners and what consortia are looking for what kind of partners, and you can apply for become a partner in this consortia. And finally, there will be time for questions and answers that you would like to just to make. As you will see in the webinar tool we are using, it's possible for you to raise your hand in case you have any question. So when I finish the webinar, I will have a look if there are some questions from the audience. And also there is a chat in which you can write your questions directly, and I can also have a look on the chat. Then let's start then with the Eureka Transnational Initiative. Okay. Okay, Eureka is it's an international initiative that looks for cooperation and for improving the competitiveness of the industries. I would say not only European industries, because Eureka is not restricted to Europe. There are other countries, as we will see later, worldwide that have joined to Eureka. But the idea is to promote this international cooperation. This is the main goal of Eureka. Also, Eureka is an intergovernmental network. That means that there are different national agencies that they join together and try to define common or to identify common interests, common priorities, and then launch together actions or instruments promoted by Eureka. And the third characteristic of Eureka is that Eureka supports market-oriented research and development projects. That's important because that makes some difference with other initiatives like the European Framework Program or other interregional or other kind of promotion or programs. In our case, Eureka is focusing on this market-oriented or closeness to the market. And finally, Eureka promotes or make easier the access to finance, to the national finance, as we will explain it also later. Nowadays, the Eureka network is composed by 41 full members, 40 countries, and the European Commission is also a member of the Eureka network. And in the picture, in the slide, you can see the distribution of these countries. Most of them are in Europe, but we have also Russia, we have the South Korea, Chile, South Africa, and Canada are associated countries. And there are also some agreements signed with other countries that appears in blue color that are international cooperation. In this case, with these blue color countries, the cooperation is made mainly through bilateral agreements. But with those appearing on green, yellow, and purple, and also South Korea in brown color, these are the countries that can participate in the Eureka instruments, and in particular in our smart cluster, as we will see later. So we have talked about some of the characteristics of Eureka, which is the market orientation is clear, international cooperation, for sure, this is what we are trying to promote. And there are two other points that has to be also highlighted. First is that the Eureka and the projects under Eureka initiatives has to be innovative enough, and always have to, the outcome has to be a process, service, and product that have some difference between the state of the art, and that also that provide some kind of innovation. And the last characteristic is that the projects under Eureka clusters and Eureka initiative has to be bottom up. That means that it's preferred that the projects come from the industries that are identified by industries, and then the consortia of the project activities try to solve these problems. But that means a bottom-up. It's not a top-down in which the technology developer, research centers, universities develop some kind of technologies and then try to implement them into the industries. In this case, it's the contrary. The problem is identified by the industry, and then other industries or research centers and universities try to solve this problem. That's the bottom-up approach. This public-private partnership I was talking about is represented as an example, for example, in this slide. Minimum, as we will explain also later, is an eligibility criteria, 2 Eureka members per project, 2 companies, 2 industries from 2 Eureka countries. They can be, for example, one large SME or the large company, one SME, and some research centers and universities from 3rd countries, but minimum 2 Eureka industries from 2 Eureka countries. Okay, some points about from the history, the benefits of participating in Eureka. Okay, some close to the market for the companies participating have increased the annual turnover in 15% as a mean value. The employment also due to the Eureka activities has increased also in the 7%, and some other figures that are being provided by the Eureka Secretariat in terms of what the improvements and the benefits coming from the participation of the Eureka initiative. Then, just to separate or to differentiate what's the European innovation landscape and where Eureka is pointed out to. First, in the European level, we have the innovation programs, like the current Horizon 2020 and the next Horizon Europe. These programs, these innovation programs, follow European strategies. That's clear. And in parallel, we have the national initiatives that the main goal is to develop and to create this critical mass and to differentiate the countries just to promoting their excellence. Eureka tries to promote these national priorities, but through transnational programs. This is how Eureka initiatives fits into the innovation landscape we have nowadays. Okay, Eureka have different instruments depending on what kind of results is going to be achieved. There are the network projects, are the focus projects with a small number of partners and mainly with SMEs like Eurostars. Global stars are those projects made with these countries appearing in blue color in the map that we have seen later before. And then, okay, there are the cluster projects that are those in which Eureka Smart is focusing to. And these are the ones I will focus now. So what's the cluster? A cluster is an instrument from Eureka. Forgot all the traditional definition of a cluster as a group of enterprises that are interested in the same sector or in the same area of business. In this case, the cluster is an instrument from Eureka that is a public-private partnership. It's a public-private partnership that is led by the industry. That is the private side of this PPP is led by industry that is composed by a group of companies with the same strategic areas or with same priorities in terms of technologies. In our case, in the case of SMART, these areas are focused on advanced manufacturing technologies. In this initiative, in this private side of the PPP, not only industries participate, or also universities and research centers can participate. And the public side of the PPP is composed by the national agencies. Each country has a national agency that launch national goals or define the national priorities. In our cluster, in the smart cluster, the public side of the PPP is composed by these national agencies. Also, the clusters have quite a good flexibility in the sense that we can launch our own calls, we can call for projects, we can promote, for example, the participation of SMEs or the major European industries, also engage different partners of the value chain. Okay, we are quite flexible and transparent in our way of working. We foster European competitiveness. Of course, Europe is important, but as other countries are also participating in our smart cluster, I would say that not only Europe is European competitiveness is being promoted, also the competitiveness in other countries through this relationship between the countries. And as I was mentioning, we are a public-private partnership. Each country finance its I mean, the consortia are international when presenting the project, as we will see later, and the funding is coming from the different governments. It's decentralized. I will explain also later how does it mean. Okay, this is more or less the clusters. And then, what's the SMART? SMART is a cluster, but it's a cluster that is focused on advanced manufacturing technologies. So our main mission is to boost the competitiveness, growth, and make manufacturing more attractive to the general public and to the companies. As pointed out in the left side of the mission, in the text, we are focusing on discrete manufacturing technologies. That means that the continuous manufacturing or the continuous processing, like chemical, pharma, steel production, this kind of processes that are producing continuously, that are continuous manufacturing processes, in principle are out of the scope of the SMART. We are focusing on discrete manufacturing. And I will explain later what are the main technical domains we are focusing in SMART. And in the right side of the screen, the slide is, okay, SMART is trying to create these new business opportunities and to make easier the access to the finance for the manufacturing industries. But we would like to base our projects, SMART projects, in technologies that are mature enough. That means that the TRL level we are targeting to should be between 6 to 8. It's the level of TRL we are moving in our SMART projects. Okay, it appears in this screen. Here you have the technology readiness level with the 9 levels. And okay, from 5 to 8 would be the focus of SMART, the advanced manufacturing. In principle, I would prefer just to be closer, but from 6 to 8. Having the technologies already demonstrated in relevant environments and being or making them able to be exploited, to be commercialized through operational environments and being completely qualified. This will be the scope of our projects. Okay, nowadays SMART is composed. We have governance. SMART was created as a company, international company, in October last year, 2017. Our headquarters is located in San Sebastian, and we are an international association with a non-profit association. And we have our SMART governance structure you see in the screen. So we have a cluster board. I will explain now which are the members of this cluster board, and also the General Assembly, in which all the companies participating in the SMART, being members of the association, also participate in the General Assembly. And we have a close relationship with the Public Authorities Board. This is the group of national agencies that define the national priorities and also provide, along with the SMART cluster, the label of the projects. And we have a technical committee that is responsible for evaluating the projects along with the expert evaluation panel. That I will explain later how the SMART projects are evaluated and which criteria we follow for evaluating them. And we have also the cluster office, in which I am the director of it, and is the instrument that performs the day-to-day work of the cluster. As mentioned, this is the SMART board members. And nowadays we have 12 core group members in the board. The main goal of the board is just to be the executive executive that take the executive decisions of the cluster. And as you see, we have partners from the aerospace industry like Airbus and JKN Aerospace. We have others coming from the automotive sector like Volvo and Group Antolin. We have from the capital good representatives like Mondragon Corporation and also Grupo Rollo and Adira, and some other representatives from the research and development institutions like IK4, CIRRIS, and Esperea and SPUM. So you see that in our board we have tried to represent different interests, both large companies as well as small medium enterprises, and also some actors from the research and development institutions. I explained it before, this was the board, but we have more than 150 organizations that are supporting SMART as members of the association. And here you see where these companies are coming from. We have a strong Spanish partnership, South Korea, Germany, Turkey, Italy, Ireland. Okay, you see more or less how is the process of these 150 organizations from 21 countries, but we are increasing these numbers and also the different countries engaged in SMART. Nowadays, from the from the Eureka community, we have a group of 12 countries that are supporting countries that appears on the left side of the screen. Austria, Flanders, Chile, Czech Republic, Lithuania, Norway, Portugal, Slovakia, South Korea, Spain, Sweden, and Turkey. These 12 countries are called supporting countries because their national agencies are allocating amount of funding, amount of budget for covering the participation of the national entities in the SMART projects. Additionally, we have a group of 8 interested countries: Brussels, Belgium, Brussels region, Canada, Germany, Hungary, Ireland, Russia, Slovenia, and Switzerland, that are called interested countries. This group of countries have confirmed their interest in the SMART activities, in the SMART topics, and are also keen to funding the national entities participating in the SMART projects. The difference with the supporting countries is that in the case of interested countries, these countries are not allocating any specific amount of money for covering SMART, but they commit themselves to promote and to support the participation of the national entities in a SMART project in case of being labeled these projects. So this is the group of supporting and interested countries, but even the participation in SMART is open to the other interested countries, in the sense that in case of, for example, having partners from Israel, or having partners from Italy, France, or any other country not appearing in this slide, it is possible for them to become partners of a SMART project. And the only condition is to check with their national agencies if the thematic of the project is aligned or not with a national call that will support their participation in the project. That's the only difference that it makes with the list of countries appearing here. Even for other countries not a member of the Eureka community, let's think on Argentina, Brazil, or Japan, or any other country, India, these partners from these countries could be also partners of the SMART projects. But in that case, these partners will have to obtain national funding from their government, or should self-fund themselves with private funds their participation in the SMART project. But as you see, SMART cluster call for projects is completely open for any interested partner from any country is interested to participate and to develop this technology. So it's possible for the partners to become members of the smart cluster, and there are two possibilities. You can become a member of the smart association if your organization belongs to any of the participating supporting countries: Austria, Chile, Belgium, Czech Republic, Lithuania, Norway, Portugal, Slovakia, South Korea, Spain, Sweden, and Turkey. In that case, if you would like to become a member of a smart association and participate in the smart working groups and in the general assemblies and in the technical committee and so on, you will have to sign a declaration of accession to the association, and then pay a membership fee that is paid only once as an entering fee to the association. There is a second possibility to join a smart, and if in the case of your entity doesn't belong to any country as of the supporting countries, and then you can sign a support form and appearing as a supporting partner. In that case, you won't have to pay any membership fee for becoming a supporting partner. Okay, but this is the way in which you can join a smart association. In case you have any question, you can contact the smart office, and we will be trying to provide any help. Sorry. And okay, we will see later how the process of funding the project, smart project, is going on. But at the end, when the projects are evaluated positively and the national agencies also provide a green light, let's say, in the evaluation, the consortia received what is called the smart label. With this label, each entity can request the funding to their national agencies. And once the project has been labeled and the national funding agencies have confirmed that they will provide the funding to the national entities, and once this is confirmed and we know the amounts that will be funded to each one of the partners, the smart office will charge 1.5% of the fee of the eligible budget to each partner. This 1.5% fee is used by the smart office just as a way to continue working and launching our call for projects and just supporting the smart structure. This is the only income we have from the national agencies or from the projects. Okay, but this appears also in our regulations, and we are also keen to provide any explanation and information about this point. Okay, then I will enter now in the second call for project, that is the main core of this webinar and the hint for preparing a good proposal. Okay, so talking about the technical domains we are covering in a smart cluster, we base our technical domains in these 6 pillars. As you will see later, we are almost covering all the possible manufacturing technologies that any company could be interested on. Okay, the first technical domain is the advanced manufacturing processes. And here we consider not only conventional processes, but also non-conventional processes, manufacturing processes, like, for example, those manufacturing processes for new materials, new composites, ceramics, or a new combination hybrid materials, metal, fiber, or processes related to additive manufacturing, or those that could provide new functionalities to the components through surface modification, for example, microtexturing or any other surface modification. And modeling simulation for these manufacturing processes will be also considered within this domain. As for example, the assembly and disassembly of different materials, and these processes used for this joining or union of these different materials could be also considered. Laser, chemical, ultrasonic processes could also enter as non-conventional manufacturing processes. So as you see, we have in this domain quite open approach to the manufacturing processes. The second domain will deal with the manufacturing systems. Here we could think on machine tools, capital goods, manufacturing lines, robots, fixturing, or measurement systems or inspection systems, advanced metrology, sensor networks. Okay, here we would like to consider all the hardware or all the equipment used in manufacturing systems. And okay, this would be the main focus of this second domain. In the third domain, we call it digital, virtual, and efficient companies. We would consider here all the technologies around what is called Industry 4.0 or the using of large amounts of data in the manufacturing work floor. Okay, here it will be considered also the simulation modeling, traceability of the components through the value chain or through the manufacturing chain, or the using big data and large amounts of information, not only at factory level, but also considering the different ecosystems or production suppliers or end users and other stakeholders of the value chain. Even life cycle analysis or life cycle costs models associated to manufacturing could be also considered within this domain. So here, okay, this would be the domain in which those technologies around the information and the sensoring and the virtual representation of the manufacturing processes could be considered. Okay, the fourth domain is the person-machine collaboration, and here we would like to see not only person-machine interfaces, human-machine interfaces, but also those technologies oriented to make the working place more friendly. For example, how to make it more inclusive, reducing the level of noise, vibrations, improving the ergonomics of the working place, or developing this human-robot collaboration and these collaborative robots or safer working places and augmented reality, virtual reality, all these technologies which could help to people to be more interested for the industry, for the manufacturing working places or jobs, and also could make them safer and more productive. The fifth technical domain is on sustainable manufacturing, and here we focus mainly on those processes oriented to reduce the energy and raw material consumption. But it could be included here also the technologies oriented to circular economy, like remanufacturing, reusing, recycling, or this kind of technologies, zero defects approach, or industrial symbiosis. That is also nowadays a keyword. Is important in many different sectors. How to reduce the carbon footprint in the manufacturing processes, or improve the recyclability of the components of the new materials. This would be the fifth domain. And the last one, the customer-based manufacturing. Here, here I visualize the value chain, the complete value chain from the raw material provider up to the end user, and as well as the different agencies and different bodies that could play some role in the manufacturing chain for validating or standardization or technology providers or any kind of actors of the value chain. So these are the 6 technical domains that in which we have divided the technology roadmap of the smart cluster. And this is how we have the technology roadmap defined nowadays. Maybe in the future, we will keep this approach, but we will try to make also a more oriented definition or oriented approach through lighthouses or through this kind of big projects with with challenging goals in which we could launch more oriented calls or more thematic oriented calls. But okay, in principle, in this second call, we have now open the domains. The domains we have are these 6, and all the projects, all the proposals that to be presented should go through one or several of these thematic technical domains. Okay, so let's continue then. I have briefly mentioned before the eligibility criteria for smart cluster projects, but they appear here in this slide. There are 4 main criteria. First, as I already mentioned, the minimum number of partners in a consortia should be 2 industrial companies from 2 different Eureka participating countries. I would like to highlight to have 2 high industrial companies. That's important. It's not possible to have one industry from one country and one university from another Eureka country. This wouldn't make the minimum eligible criteria. For this eligibility criteria, we have to have at least 2 industries from 2 Eureka countries. Okay, the second criteria is that the project has to be innovative and market oriented. I have talked before about the TRL level from 6 to 8. It is the 3 levels we would like to target to. But the projects and the proposals should be innovative enough, should provide some kind of differentiation regarding the state of the art, and also should be bottom up, should provide some kind of new product, new result, new service, or some added value regarding the existing state of the art. The third eligibility criteria is that the project has to be with cyber purposes. That means that the non-military projects are allowed or will be supported. And the last one is that the budget has to be balanced between the partners. That means that no country, no partner may have more than the 66% of the total budget. This condition is just to ensure that the consortia and the participating of countries are more or less balanced. So remember that this 66% of the budget cannot be in the hands of one single partner or in a single country. Okay, in Smart, like in any other Eureka cluster, we are following 2 stages procedure. The first stage is the project outline, in which it is asked just a presentation of a short document. I will explain later how which are the different structure of the project outline, and a full project proposal that is more like a project as usual, with a definition in detail of the different sections and different articles, the different parts of the proposal. But we will focus now on the project outline. This project outline, that is the first page, the first stage, sorry, is composed by these 5 main sections, as you see in the content. The index or the template for this project outline can be found in our project, in our smart web page, or you can also get it contacting directly the smart office, and we will be kind to provide it to you. We have elaborated as well a guideline for proposers in which all the sections are also explained. So first of all, we have a proposal one-page description in which all the participants will have to just explain with the title of the proposal, with the acronym, and also those partners that are already identified in this first phase. I have not mentioned before, but I think it is worth to mention now. In these 2 stages approach we follow in SMART, this first stage, the project outline, is not a go-no-go phase like in the Horizon 2020 program, for example, in which those projects that don't go through the first stage cannot submit the full project proposal. In the case of the Smart Cluster, we understand the project outline phase as not a go-no-go, but as recommendations and as suggestions phase in which we as the office, with the help of the evaluators and the technical committee, provide to the proposers and to the projects and to the consortia our recommendations and our suggestions how the full project proposal could be more successful or could be successful. That means that the important stage of the call for project is the full project proposal. That's clear. But I think it's worth to mention. Okay, in this project outline, this first stage, our intention is just to provide more the recommendation and suggestions how to have a more successful full project proposal. But having said that, okay, now I will enter into the explanation of what we are requesting in our project outline phase. As I mentioned, this proposal, one-page description. Okay, the description of the partners that are already identified in this first stage, and a short abstract about the project idea. Okay, then in the section number 2, the project overview. Here we have the short description of the overall objectives, just pointing which is the problem that the project would like to solve, and which could be the specific objectives of the project. We could identify a main goal for the project and then some secondary objectives that should be also interesting to explain. Just remember that these objectives, it's recommendable if they are clear, if they can be measurable, realistic, and also they can be achieved in the duration of the project you are thinking. Taking this into account when defining your objectives. And the second part of the rationale for the project is to describe briefly what's the innovation and what's the technology value chain. That means, okay, how the different actors, different partners involved in the project are covering or different the roles needed for the project, and what's the market value chain you are pointing with your project. I mean, you are trying to introduce a new technology for producing an automotive component made of metallic material, for example. Okay, do you need the technology provider? Do you need, for example, the tier 1, tier 2, or the original equipment manufacturer for validating the technology? I mean, we would like you to explain what's the market value chain of the project you are thinking, and also in this section of the project innovation, you will have to convince the evaluators about the novelty of the project proposal. As mentioned before, is what's new regarding the state of the art. That's the important point of this section. The second part of the project overview is regarding technology and output. So there is a first section when we put here the maximum 1,500 words. Okay, this is tentative extension of the section. You can think of one page and a half or 2 pages maximum. We are not requesting long descriptions or detailed description of the state of the art, but it's recommendable that in this first stage to analyze or describe briefly what's the current technology situation of the technology you are trying to or you will develop in your project, and also making a differentiation about the status, the state of the art, and that you are going to develop in the sense of product, prototypes, or services. Okay, this is also, let's say, highlighted in the second point, the innovation regarding the state of the art, and the expected outputs and KPIs, the key performance indicators. And this is important, these key performance indicators, because they will be useful for measuring how the achievements of the project are really good or really excellent or not. So these KPIs is desirable, recommendable to be smart, specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and timely. That means that they can be achieved in during the project lasting or during the project lifespan. So, okay, we will ask you to make this effort trying to identify what are you trying to develop or to obtain with your project, and try to identify these KPIs in this way. Okay, the next section is the consortium overview, and here briefly, as you see, a short information or brief information about the project coordinator and the different project partners. A full legal name, organization short name, the department, address, technical contact person, and contact details. As I mentioned, this is important in this first stage to have at least the minimum eligibility criteria. I mean, to have 2 industries from 2 Eureka countries in the consortia. If we receive projects in this first stage with only one company, as we had in the last call, several proposals that in the consortia appear only one company. Okay, we will reject these proposals in this first stage because they are not fulfilling the eligibility criteria. So in this first stage, please ensure that the consortia at least are international. I mean, engage 2 industries from 2 companies, from 2 countries. This is the minimum eligibility criteria we will request to all the partners, all the consortia. Okay, there is also a consortium table in which it appears the short name of the partners, and if they are coordinators, they are partners, the countries, and also if you have some comments. For example, imagine that you have the coordinator is a South Korean company, and there are also one company coming from Sweden and other one from Portugal. But you expect to engage more partners in the full project proposal stage, or you are looking for other kind of partners. You could put here in this consortium table those partners already identified, and then those partners that you are looking for the full project proposal. And here in the comment, you could just explain what's the kind of partners, the role these partners are expecting to play, or which countries you think could be desirable to have engaged, or any information that could help us, Smart Office, to identify also possible applicants or possible entities that could complement your consortia. But in this table, as I mentioned, please identify those partners already present in this project phase and some other that you intend to engage for the full project proposal. Okay. And then the last part of the project overview is referred to the market and expected impact. And here we ask you to explain which is the impact expected for the different partners at business level and technology level. So provide your hint, your comments about how the project will improve the competitiveness or the market relevance for the companies, or will provide some technologies that will help them to reach new markets or to reach new products. This is what is expected to explain briefly this impact. Of course, for the full project proposal phase, the market and expected impact will have to be much more detailed and much more explained. But here in the project outline phase, we will only request this approach. In this project outline phase, we also request some project structure. I mean, just to explain briefly which are the work packages you are thinking on. We are not requesting you to detail all the work packages and the task descriptions, just only to mention them. You can use some diagrams or just to briefly, in 2 sentences, explain which technical work packages you are considering, because they will allow the evaluators to have a good idea if there is something missing, or if you are considering all the requested technologies or the needed technologies. Okay. Also ensure that the risk identification is made. Of course, in the full project proposal stage, this will be requested in detail. But in the project outline stage, is always helpful if you start identifying possible risks and then describe them quite shortly in the project outline stage. It will help you for the full project proposal to have already identified. And also include a work package on project management. This is also important. In the last call, there were several projects that didn't include a project management work package. And it's important to have it, like in any other project. Okay, there is also some point about main milestones. This refers to the main, let's say, which are the key points, or which are the results or the intermediate achievements you think that it's important to highlight, and that will somehow help to track how your project evaluates, how your project evolves. So try to make this identification of the main milestones. You don't need to describe them in detail. They could be, for example, to validate the prototype, or to make an industrial evaluation, or to upscale the technology, to fulfill standards, or introduce the technology into the customer value chain. I don't know. You can identify several milestones that could help us to track the future project when it is running. Okay, we request also a short cost information table. It's very really tentative table with the different partners, and how to for the different years 1, 2, 3, or the years you understand the project will last. How is the labor, the material, if there will be some subcontracting, just to make a tentative approach. We don't request a detailed description of the cost, but we would like just to make to see how is the budget approach for this project outline phase. And finally, this is the last section of the project outline, in which it is requested the rationale for the public funding, for the national public funding. This is important for the national agencies. As I mentioned, we will evaluate the project from the excellence, implementation, and impact point of view, and the national agencies will evaluate the project regarding the alignment with the national goals. So it's important if you try to explain which is the rationale for obtaining this national public funding, which is the benefit for the participating countries, the return on investment, how you consider that the funding you will receive from the national public authorities will generate new jobs, new revenues, economic growth, or what you think it could be interesting, or if you will improve the national ecosystem, or there will be some cross-fertilization with other companies, with other actors. Okay, this is important for the national public agencies to highlight. Okay, so this will be the project outline template and the different sections that have to be presented before the 19th of November, as we will see later in the calendar. Okay, briefly, this is the evaluation. We will perform the evaluation following the excellence, the impact, and the quality of implementation, as any other evaluation of the project in any program. And also we will provide the importance of having established some contact with the national funding authorities. So the consortia are requested to inform their national agencies that they are going to submit a proposal to the SMART cluster. And if in the project outline is not real mandatory, but in the full project proposal, this contact with the national funding authorities will be mandatory to have contacted them before submitting the full project proposal. So we recommend you just to keep them in contact and keep aware that you are going to submit a project proposal for the SMART cluster. Okay, some data about the last call we had in June this year, just to show you the numbers of the mean value of budget was between 2 or 5 million euros. There were some projects about 5 million, but this is the mean values with 4 or 5 participants and engaging 2-3 countries. But we have also projects with more than 3 countries, and the project lasted between 2 and 3 years. Okay, this is just for your information about the mean values, the mean figures of the projects we obtained in the last call. But this is not mandatory. I mean, what is important is to fulfill the eligibility criteria. From that, you can create the project you consider more adequate for your problem. With 6 to 10 partners, let's say from 2 to 6-8 million, or engaging 4 or 5 countries, you can create the project you think more appropriate. Now, the call timing. We launched the call in September this year, the 10th of September. The project outline will close in the 19th of November, is the submission deadline. And this time you will have to submit to the office the proposal with your project outline document. And then we will start the evaluation of these project outlines. So we expect to communicate in the 19th of December to the applicants if the project outline has been approved, and then invite you to submit the full project proposal, which in case of being invited has to be, this is the important deadline, I would say, the full project proposal deadline is expected to be the 15th of March. For those projects that are now too green, let's say, to in a very initial stage and cannot go to the project outline, it's possible to go directly to the full project proposal deadline. It's possible, but in that case, you will have to inform both the SMART office as well as the national agencies, because if you go directly to the full project proposal deadline with your project idea, and presenting the full project in that date. The national agencies will need to give their they have to be what to say, they have to agree on that. So you will have to inform them that you are intending to present directly the project to the full project proposal, and the national agencies have to agree with that. So this is important. That's the reason because we recommend you to follow the two stages approach. And in that case, the national agencies will be already informed about your intentions. And at the same time, you will obtain our recommendations and suggestions how to improve your proposal for the full project proposal stage. But just you know that you can go also directly to the FPP. Then after presenting the full project proposals, we will evaluate them with our experts panel. And by the 9th, 10th of May, we expect to provide the labeling decision to label the project. So once the project has been labeled, the applicants will approach the national agencies and then have the funding decision. We expect by the beginning of September next year, we could have the funding decisions made by the national agencies. So this is the second call timing for this smart call we have running nowadays. Good. So now some hints for preparing the proposal. This is okay. This is I provide you these hints from my previous experience on preparing proposals, not only for SMART but also for the framework program, and are quite logical. So nothing special. First, okay, there are not major magic formulas. The quality, commitment, the good job offer good success possibilities. That's clear. Also take into account who is your customer. Your customer is the evaluator. Usually the evaluator is a scientific or industrialist. This is the kind of people we are engaging in our expert panel. So Eureka Cluster Office, the Smart Cluster Office, we are the prescriber, but we are not the evaluator. Your customer is the evaluator. So you have to convince the evaluator about your project idea. And what your customer, what's the evaluator requesting? First, he likes or she likes to have a clarity in the structure and in the contents. So try to provide some graphics, not too many, but good graphics. Try to be correct in your English and make it easy to understand. And also don't put too many, let's say, void text, or try to be concise or to be direct in your messages. This is important also for the evaluator. Also try to highlight the technical, scientific excellence. Try to highlight the qualitative and quantitative added value or novelty of your project. Be rigorous regarding the state of the art. In most of the cases, the evaluators can make some search or know already about the state of the art, so can find differences or can find that you are not being rigorous enough regarding the state of the art. Also try to provide answers to actual and real problems. Don't try to invent or non-existing problems and then try to apply technologies to non-requested, or that is something that the industry is not requesting nowadays. Think also about the competitiveness, the cost effectiveness, environmental impact. Okay, these are also important points to take into account when defining your excellence. Regarding the consortium, try to have a good consortium, well balanced and properly equipped. That means that the different partners have the infrastructure, have the skills, have the instruments or the equipment, the machines and the technologies that you will need for your project. So try to construct a competent consortium. That's important also for the evaluator. That means that try to avoid the overlappings, try to define clear roles for the partners, And the coordinator has to play a key role and has to lead the consortia clearly. I put there careful with the friends. It's just a common problem to engage partners or to engage colleagues that worked in previous projects, and then it's like they partner for everything and take care with this kind of okay, but it's up to you for sure. And also take care regarding the budget. To make it real and try to balance budget. As mentioned, the project has to respond to real problems, and there should be also intentions to exploit the results. This is the bottom-up approach. And so it's important in the Eureka Smart project to have companies, to have end users that are going to exploit or to use the result, the technologies, or they have intentions to bring them to the market in, let's say, 1 year, 2 years after the project ends. So in that sense, a business plan, an exploitation plan is also welcome to have into account when you launch or you prepare your proposal. Okay, these were some hints from our side for having for preparing good proposals. And then you have the project looking for partners. If you go to Smart websites, smarteureka.com, and let me check. Wait a minute, I will open. Yes. Okay. Here in submit your proposal, here you have a project looking for partners. And here you have some of projects that are looking for partners. You have the contact partner, which kind of partners are being sought. In this case, for example, end user or companies with technologies about adhesive bonding. And also if there are some relevance about the countries they are looking for. You say that here's any, when they say any, is that there are no any particular country being sought. Partners are accepted for any Eureka country. And if you click in this link, you will get a short presentation about the proposal in particular, with the organization profile and the proposal introduction, proposal and the partners already identified, and what the contact info or what kind of partners they are looking for. So this information are accessible through our website. I repeat, in submit your proposal, and at the end of the list is the project looking for partners, and where you can access this list of projects being prepared nowadays. And at the same time, if you are looking for a partner for your project and you would like the Smart Office to publicize or to disseminate in our website, you can fulfill this information. There is a project idea template you can follow to describe your idea, and also some description about your project idea, and we will upload in this list. Okay. So this is open for the general public, and you can take advantage of this service we offer from the Smart. So we have reached, after 1 hour and 10 minutes, the question and answers. I hope to have been clear enough, but I will check now if there are some attendees that have their, you can raise your hand. I see that there are several questions. So now I will open your microphone. Okay. Go ahead, please.
Okay, yes. You mentioned in the beginning that process industries like steel producers, medical, and so on, that they are out of the scope. Was that correct?
Okay. What I said is that the Smart Cluster is focusing on discrete manufacturing. I mean, the production processes for single parts, or let's say components for automotive, railway, aerospace, mold, consumer goods, these kind of sectors. We are trying to not to avoid, but for example, technologies around chemical processing, pharma, or funding processing, I mean, metal casting, or this kind of processes that are continuous processing would be out of the scope. However, for example, if you are going to develop some technology for modeling, monitoring, or sensoring, data acquisition of processes that could be also continuous processing, but the main core of the idea is to develop the modeling and the monitoring sensors, then it could be also in the scope of SMART. But in principle, we will focus on discrete manufacturing. Okay?
Okay.
Okay, thanks, Lar. Okay, I will check if Manuel Oliveira is also raised hand. Manuel, you have your microphone unmute, so go ahead.
Hi, thank you for the presentation. I have a couple of questions. One of them is, so once you get the SMART label, you approach your national authority to get the funding from them.
Right.
And this varies from country to country because they have their own rules. So for example, in Norway, I think that because I've been looking into it, the National Research Council slots this into the BIA innovation program, and there the deadline is in October. So how is this aligned?
Okay, then, as you mentioned, in the project outline and also in the full project proposal, we as a SMART office perform the evaluation following the excellence and the quality, the impact and implementation criteria. In parallel, the national agencies perform the evaluation of the projects following their national priorities and checking if the projects are aligned with their national goals. Okay, then a common decision, a joint decision is taken by the SMART office and the national agencies about labeling or not one project. Once this decision has been taken about labeling a project, that means that the project is good from our point of view, from the excellence and impact of the SMART office point of view, and the project is good from the national agency side. And then it comes to the point in which the companies have to claim for the funding to the national agencies. Of course, once we label the project, each national agency needs some time for processing the request, the national request. Usually it takes around 3 months after labeling process for the national agencies, each national agency to make a decision, a final decision for funding the partner. And as you said, okay, it could happen that one country have some dates in October for their decision. Okay, that means that the rest of partners in the consortium will have to delay or till having all the partners the decision. I mean, the consortia can decide to start the project without one partner, one country having already made a decision, but this is at their own risk. So what usually happens is that the starting of the project is delayed until all the countries have confirmed that they will found their partners. And this is something that we from the office help to the partners to inform or to get informed with their national agencies, and we also try to homogenize or to have an homogeneous calls for all the countries participating. But we understand this is the most tricky part of the clusters, to have all the partners, all the countries with the same, at least with the same timeline, because the conditions, funding conditions are correspond to its national country. But yeah, this dates, yes.
Yeah, so this means that if I understood correctly, the proposal is evaluated for getting the smart label, and then it needs to be evaluated by the national agents, each of the national agencies, to see if they can fund. So this means that even though you get the smart label, one of the national agencies might say you don't get funding.
No, no. Okay, when we label the project, we provide the label from our point of view, from the
Yep.
quality of the proposal, and the national agencies provide also the green light, or their how to say, they confirm, I mean, that the project is keen to receive the funding, or is aligned or fulfills the national criteria to get the funding. Do you understand? I mean,
So it's only the national, so it's only the criteria. Like, for example, if you go to Belgium, the Flanders national agency requires that you always have to have an industrial partner from Belgium. It's not, you can't just have an RTO involved. You have to have an industrial partner.
Yeah.
But it's not re-evaluating again the proposal. It's just seeing if the criteria, eligibility criteria is met.
Yes,
is that correct?
Right. And they also, it's not only from the eligibility criteria, the national eligibility criteria, that they confirm if the project receives a green or the red light, but also from the possibilities of getting funds from the national call. They say, okay, this project is keen to receive funds because it's not from the only eligible, but also the thematic the project is covering is aligned with the national priorities. So when we provide the label, okay, of course, it has to be confirmed later by the national agency, but in principle, the project is keen to receive the funding from the national criteria. Okay?
But what you're saying is there's still a risk that one national agency or more might say no.
No. What could happen is that the decision from the national agency could delay the starting of the project because it's taken a different time regarding the other countries participating in the project. One country can have 3 months of the timeline for taking a decision, and another country could need, let's say, 6 months, or could open his call in a different month, and it will mean that the starting of the project is postponed, but not that the funding is a risk for the partner.
Okay. Then regarding that, sorry for all these questions, but I've been thinking.
No, I think it's also fruitful for the rest of the attendees. Go ahead.
So what happens, because if we're looking at this, you're suggesting, according to the slide, that the funding in principle project can aim to start in September if all goes well. It could be a little bit later. You're not guaranteeing that, but you say that in principle project could start then. But us being interested in innovation, that's a long time to wait for funds. So it might be that some of us are interested, especially those that are involved in startups, might start much sooner.
Yeah.
This might change a little bit the interest in the projects, because if you find other funds, how do then you reconcile? Because it would be a shame that you put all this effort to get the smart label, and then because it's delayed, you still, it's strategic to you. You start the work somehow with other funds. How do you reconcile both?
Yeah, that's a problem. I agree with you that okay, somehow it's endangering or it's jeopardizing the project, but at the end, okay, the smart cluster promotes international consortia, international projects, and the funding is coming from the national government. So we are under the decisions and the programs and the ways of procedure for the different countries. We could try to negotiate with the countries, and this is something, for example, today I'm flying to Edinburgh because the next 3 days it will take place the Eureka high-level group meeting in the UK, and I will meet there with all the national agencies that are supporting SMART. So my message to them will be, as you pointed out, how we could ensure that the project starting is not delayed more than, it's not delayed unnecessarily, or how we can short the starting of the project as much as possible. But at the end, this is something that the Commission, the national agencies have to put the measures, and they have to commit themselves.
Yeah.
We from the SMART office, we can only just suggest them and try to convince them to follow an homogeneous procedure.
Yeah, because you do realize that this thing of the starting project date is actually a risk for us. You know, it's better to know it starts on a particular date so you can plan towards it and assess, is it worth it or not, than having a date that you don't know when it's going to start. Because if it's something that's strategic for you, you know, we want to start it as soon as possible. So you might just go somewhere else and not apply for the Smart Eureka, which is a shame, because I think it's very attractive, because it's the focus of going to the market much. There's a stronger emphasis on that than other EU instruments. Then I have this question, which is, you mentioned that once that the Smart Eureka office charges for each participant 1.5% of their budget. Is this when the funds are granted to that partner, or because it can't be when you assign the label, because there's still a risk that the money might not come forward?
Yeah, of course. The fee is only charged when we have a confirmation that the partner will receive the funding, and this 1.5% is regarding the eligible cost or eligible budget approved by the national agency for each partner. That's clear.
Okay. And this is only after you know that the project is going to start, because if the project collapses because you have a key partner that doesn't get their budget, you're not going to charge the other ones because the project is not going ahead.
Okay. Manuel, I have to just to give the floor to another attendee. Thank you very much for your questions. Are really interesting. And of course, we will do our best to try to reduce these times and to improve the starting of the process, the project, for sure. Okay, thank you. Then I have Merete Narvi. Merete,
yes,
you have now unmute. Hello.
Yeah, Merete Narvi from MADE, Manufacturing Academy of Denmark. Thank you for a very good presentation. I enjoyed the slides very much, which are more precise or shorter than the ones you find at the web. Will they be made available afterwards? Your slideshow.
Sorry, could you repeat, please?
Your slideshow, will it be available on the web, or will you send it to us? It's very good for us to use to explain other people. Like, I'm in a cluster and I need to bring this information to other people as well.
Okay, good. In principle, yes, the presentation will be available. As far as we have the contact details of all the persons engaged in the teleconference in this webinar, so we can send it to you. And of course, the webinar will be uploaded it's been recorded and will be accessible through our website. So you will have access to both the presentation as well as the webinar, for sure.
Yeah, the presentations indeed. Thank you very much.
Okay.
One thing about, you mentioned 2 industries from 2 countries. And in your example, it was an SME and a large company. But am I correct? It could be 2 large companies. There's no SME requirement, right?
Yes, right. In principle, the clusters are open. Originally, at the beginning, they were focusing on SMEs, but now they are open to any partner. And with the eligibility criteria, we understand 2 industries can be large companies or SMEs from 2 Eureka countries.
Good.
Then you can find also that some particular country has some requirements for the national call to engage, for example, at least 1 SME from that country, or to have some restrictions or something like that. But this is particular for the country. From the eligibility criteria, the minimum condition is to have 2 in the industries from 2 Eureka countries, having these industries both large or SMEs, or they have to be industries. Okay.
Thank you. Yeah. Then about the proposals which are now at the website,
Yes.
and which will turn into proposals by 19 November.
Mm-hmm.
Can you add a member who is not part of the 8+7 countries now? And specifically, Denmark is so far not among these countries, but I do expect that our national body will get funding for 2019. So can you add a member from Denmark to one of the proposals?
Yeah, definitely.
Now?
Yeah, definitely, yes. I would say even more. Denmark is a Eureka country, so no problem on adding a partner in a proposal for the SMART. What we will have to check with the national agency, with the I think it's Innovate Denmark, or with
Innovation Fund.
Yeah, okay, that's
Innovation
right.
Fund, yeah.
And we will have to check with them if the national calls in Denmark could support the Smart Eureka cluster, the participation of the Danish entities in the Smart cluster. These days in Edinburgh, I have already scheduled some bilateral meetings with the Denmark national representative. And one of my questions is in that sense. Okay, if Denmark will have some national call for supporting the participation of Danish entities in SMART. So I will keep you and the rest of the SMART community informed about this point too. Okay.
Very good. And then the last comment is referring to Manuel's questions before. It is definitely my understanding that if the national entities decide that they will fund, for instance, only 2 Eureka projects, then it doesn't matter that you have a label, because it will be the national funding budget that decides whether your project will get funded or not, and not the label. This is definitely my understanding from previous work.
Yes, you're right. At the end, as I mentioned before, the cluster, the SMART cluster, promotes international consortia, but the funding is coming from the national countries, the national agencies. That means that if one country has, let's say, 5 million euros for funding the national entities, and that covers the participation or the funding of 5 projects, and they have labeled 8 projects with countries with partners from that country. That means that only 5 will receive the funding, because the amount of the available funding will end before. I mean, it won't reach for the 8 projects. Do you understand?
Yes, sure. So, thank you. Yeah. That's all.
Yeah, this is something that of course, if the countries see that many entities, many projects are interested, or many entities from the country are interested to SMART, they can enlarge, they can increment the amount of funding allocated for our cluster. But of course, this is in the hands of the national agencies, the amount of funding they want to request or to allocate. So thank you very much, Meredith raised.
So as mentioned, this webinar will be available for you through our website, and we will try also to provide a presentation. You can make use of it if you think interesting, or if it can be helpful for you to just to disseminate a smart cluster. And of course, you can contact the Smart Office for anything you could think interesting, or you have any question. So thank you very much. After 1 hour and a half of this, I think, interesting the webinar for you. So thank you very much for your attention, for your participation, and let's keep in touch and contact ourselves, the Smart Office, if you have any questions. So thank you very much, and have a nice day for you all. Goodbye.